Millionaire's daughter was kidnapped. Only a poor boy could find her. Sounds impossible, right? But what if the one person no one believed in was the only one who saw what everyone else missed? Keep watching, because this story doesn't just break the rules, it rewrites them. Claire Montgomery's alarm chimed at 6:30 a.m. sharp, the soft echo of a violin piece she couldn't name. Sunlight streamed through her high-rise bedroom, dancing across walls painted in blush tones and decorated with framed magazine covers of her father, William Montgomery, tech mogul, billionaire, father of the year. Supposedly, her room smelled like lavender and fresh linen. The floor was heated, the closet opened automatically, everything moved on its own, except her. She sat up slowly, brushing a perfectly blow-dried strand of blonde hair behind her ear, eyes locking with her own reflection in the mirror across the room. 17 years old, glowing skin, emerald green eyes, and the burden of being perfect in a world that didn't care how she actually felt. Her morning routine was always the same. Fresh juice from the kitchen staff, a breakfast smoothie she never finished, and a ride to Westgate Prep in the family's custom Tesla SUV, with bodyguards following in a separate car. Her schedule was locked tighter than a prison. AP classes, Model UN, social media check-ins, and always fake smiles. Claire's life looked like a fantasy from the outside, but she knew the truth. Her so-called friends laughed a little too loudly at things she didn't find funny, posted group photos with her cropped out, and whispered in code when she walked into the locker room. They didn't care about her. They cared about proximity, to money, to power. She could buy anything but authenticity. She sat by the window as the SUV glided down Mulholland Drive, sipping her untouched smoothie, eyes drifting to the city below. Somewhere out there, she thought, someone was waking up without all this, and strangely, she envied them. Across town, the sun hit differently. Noah Briggs rolled out of a creaky twin mattress in a one-bedroom apartment that still smelled like mold no matter how many candles he lit. His mother coughed from the other room, a reminder that her illness was worsening. He didn't have time to worry about it. The clock read 6:32, but in this world, that meant hustle, not routine. He pulled on a wrinkled hoodie, grabbed his bike and headed out into the morning cold, dodging traffic and potholes like second nature. First stop, Jackson's Auto. He wasn't on the books, but the old man who owned it liked having an extra pair of hands. If Noah worked fast, he could pocket $60 before lunch. Noah, 18, had dropped out his junior year. Not because he didn't care, he did. He was sharp, but school couldn't pay rent or keep the lights on. He read when he could, fixed what he could, and kept his head down. In a world that saw him as disposable, Noah had learned how to disappear. Without ever leaving, his eyes were always alert, scanning for opportunity, for threat, for change. He wasn't flashy, but he noticed everything. Who got fired, which security cameras worked, where the cops patrolled less. He wasn't a criminal, just someone trying to survive. People rarely noticed him, which is why it was so strange when Claire Montgomery did. It was 4 months ago. Her custom bike had a flat tire and her driver was late. She stood on the sidewalk near downtown, scrolling through her phone, frustrated, trying not to show it. Noah was walking by with his tools when he saw her crouch beside the wheel, clueless. "You need help?" he'd asked gently, not wanting to scare her. She looked up, startled, but not annoyed, not disgusted, just curious. He fixed the tire in 5 minutes. She thanked him with a softness in her voice that didn't match her designer coat. She offered him $20. He refused. She insisted. He shook his head and walked off, but she turned and watched him disappear into the crowd, wondering why that felt more real than anything her friends had said to her all week. He remembered her too, her quiet grace, the way her voice dropped. When she said thank you like she actually meant it. She was different. He didn't know how, but he knew. 2 people, same city, different worlds. She lived in a golden cage. He lived in brutal freedom. She had bodyguards but no safety. He had nothing but instincts, and they'd never failed him. Neither of them could have imagined they'd ever meet again, and yet something invisible tethered them. A thread neither could see yet, because in just a few days, Claire Montgomery would vanish, and Noah Briggs would be the only one looking in the right places. It was just another Thursday. Claire stood outside Westgate Prep, phone in hand, checking a text she didn't really care about. Her friends had already gone inside, gossiping about someone's new nose job or weekend yacht party. The sun hovered low, golden and soft, casting shadows across the wide parking lot. She hated this part of the day. Waiting to be picked up. Waiting for another pointless meeting with her SAT tutor. Waiting for a life that didn't feel like it belonged to her. That's when she noticed it. A white van, parked at the edge of the lot, too far to seem suspicious, but too still. Claire squinted. Tinted windows, no logo, no driver getting out, just idle, silent. She looked away, then looked back. Gone. She blinked, confused. Had she imagined it? She never saw it come back. One arm around her waist, a hand over her mouth, the cold rush of air, the blur of pavement, the violent slam of a metal door. Her phone hit the asphalt, screen cracking, blinking with the final unread text, "You good?" And just like that, Claire Montgomery vanished. Across the city, William Montgomery was on a call in his office, trying to seal a multi-million-dollar deal. He paced behind glass walls that looked out over half of downtown Los Angeles, flanked by digital billboards flashing his company's latest tech release. Everything around him screamed power and control until his phone buzzed, his personal one, a blocked number. He hesitated, then answered. No voice, just static. Then a deep, distorted whisper. "She's gone. Don't call the police. Watch the roses." Click. William froze. He tried calling Claire, no answer. He called her driver. "Sir, she never came to the car." His phone slipped from his hand and shattered on the hardwood floor. Security was called. The school was locked down. A staff member found her phone outside near the hedge, its cracked screen still blinking. Local police responded, then quickly realized they were out of their depth. The FBI was contacted within the hour. Inside a sleek government office, agents began combing through surveillance footage. They watched Claire standing alone. They saw the white van, but the next camera feed showed only an empty street. No plate, no faces, no trail. The Montgomerys were told to sit tight, not to speak to the press, not to pay anything if a ransom came in, but no ransom came. Instead, cryptic messages, cut flowers delivered with no card, petals dyed red, a music box playing the lullaby. Claire's mother used to sing her when she was little, and then one envelope. Inside, a photo of Claire sleeping, blindfolded, head tilted to one side, a bruised lip beneath duct tape. Whoever had her wasn't after money. They wanted something else, and they wanted William to suffer first. Meanwhile, Noah Briggs was 2 blocks from Jackson's auto, sipping lukewarm coffee from a chipped thermos, half watching a news broadcast playing on a dusty TV. In the corner of a deli, the headline hit him like a punch. Breaking: Claire Montgomery reported missing. Foul play suspected. He froze mid-sip, heart stuttering. It didn't make sense. Girls like her didn't go missing, not with bodyguards and drivers and private security. He watched the footage they showed, grainy, barely catching the edge of the white van. His eyes narrowed. He'd seen that van before. Last week, parked outside the old rail yard near his neighborhood. Too clean to belong there, too quiet. He remembered because he thought someone might be casing the nearby corner store, but no one ever moved. Then it vanished. Same van. Noah's gut twisted. Something was wrong. He turned and jogged to the alley behind the deli, thoughts racing. He pulled out his cracked phone and searched for the local police tip line, but then paused. They wouldn't listen. Not to him. Not without proof. but he couldn't shake it. The memory of her, the girl with the green eyes and soft thank you, the only rich kid who ever looked at him like a person. She mattered to him, somehow, and he couldn't ignore what he'd just seen. Someone had taken Claire Montgomery, and if the police weren't going to look in the right places, then maybe he would. The FBI worked around the clock, but the case was already slipping through their fingers. Every lead died before it could breathe. The van? Stolen. The surveillance footage? Too pixelated to track. The music box? Sold on eBay 6 months. Ego from an anonymous burner account. Even the photo of Claire couldn't be traced. Printed on common paper, in a room with no windows, no clues. The media twisted the narrative. Headlines speculated everything from ransom to revenge to cartel involvement. But the kidnappers stayed silent. Inside the Montgomery mansion, things unraveled fast. William Montgomery, once composed and clinical, started losing grip. His staff noticed it first. Papers left scattered on his desk, meetings cancelled, voicemail messages played over and over again. His phone never left his hand, as though he were waiting for the next whisper from the ghost on the other end. Claire's mother, Elizabeth, refused to sit still. She paced the marble hallways barefoot, clutching Claire's baby blanket, lashing out at anyone who dared speak softly around her. She blamed William. She blamed his enemies. She screamed that this was all because of the lawsuit. Some foreign investor he'd shut out 6 months ago, a man with too much money and not enough patience. William didn't argue. He didn't know anymore. Across town, in a gas station parking lot, Noah Briggs stood near a payphone with a piece of paper clutched in his hand. It had the FBI tip line on it, scribbled hastily. He punched in the numbers and waited. Federal Bureau of Investigation, Tip Division. He hesitated. I think I saw something. The van from the Montgomery case. I saw it before the kidnapping. The voice on the other end stiffened. Sir, do you have a name? Noah Briggs. A pause. Then, what's your current occupation? I do freelance work. Auto stuff. Deliveries. Look, I'm not calling to waste time. I saw that van parked outside the old rail yard last week. And did you report it at the time? No, I didn't think. Thank you, Mr. Briggs. We'll log the report. Click. Just like that, he was dismissed. Another voice, lost in the noise. Noah stared at the receiver for a long second before hanging up. He should have expected it. They didn't listen to people like him, not unless there was blood on the pavement or a body in a dumpster. He kicked the curb hard, then turned as a voice called out from behind him. Yo, Briggs! It was Manny, a street-level courier and occasional hustler who worked night runs through the east side. You hear about the warehouse? Manny said, lighting a cigarette with trembling fingers. Heard some creepy stuff. Real hush-hush. Nobody talks about it, but some say there's a new room. A quiet room. What the hell's a quiet room? Don't know, man. Just know it's where they keep people who need to disappear. Noah's blood ran cold. He'd heard of the warehouse. Everyone in that part of the city had. A rundown building by the docks, officially abandoned. Unofficially, a place where no one asked questions. Guns moved. Girls were sold. People got paid to keep secrets. Noah glanced toward the distant skyline. Claire was out there, somewhere. And waiting for someone to follow the rules wasn't going to cut it. Noah made a choice. He was done waiting. If no one else would look for her in the places that mattered, then he'd go where the cops wouldn't, alone. It started with a stolen jacket. Noah slipped it on behind the loading dock of a liquor store 3 blocks from the warehouse. The faded brown coat belonged to a delivery driver who'd left it hanging in his unlocked truck while grabbing a soda. Noah didn't take the truck, just the name badge stitched on the chest. Rico, generic enough. He tucked his hood under a dusty baseball cap and stuffed an empty clipboard under his arm. At 1:07 a.m., he approached the warehouse. The building looked dead, windows blacked out, metal siding rusted. But a motion light snapped on as he stepped. Near the side entrance, A camera, barely visible in the shadows, adjusted its lens. Noah didn't flinch. He knocked once, waited, then twice more. A slot in the steel door slid open. Eyes behind it. "Delivery," he muttered, trying to sound bored. "Beat." Then the bolt clicked. The door opened just enough. Noah stepped inside. The stench hit him first. Damp concrete, sweat, oil, something worse. It wasn't a place people cleaned. The hallway stretched long and dark, dim bulbs humming above exposed wires. A man stood by a stack of crates. His arms were the size of fire hydrants. "Didn't get." "Word about a drop," the man growled. "Last minute," Noah said. "Boss said clear space near Dock 3. Cargo's coming at dawn." The man stared, skeptical. "You knew?" "Just filling in." The man grunted, then nodded toward a hallway. "Stay in the blue zones. Step out of line, you won't walk back." Noah moved fast, eyes scanning. He passed doors marked with codes. X23, B14, Q9. Inside, shadows moved. He heard muffled voices, sobs, laughter that didn't sound like joy. In one room, someone screamed. He kept walking. There were people here, held, sold, forgotten, but no sign of Claire. He found Dock 3. Empty. Oil stains on the floor, chains hanging from pipes. A flickering light revealed 2 mattresses, one of them torn and stained. Noah's breath caught. Something glinted beneath the corner of the mattress. He reached down and pulled it free. A silver necklace, small, simple, a half-moon charm. He'd seen it before. Claire wore it the day he fixed her bike. His pulse spiked. This was it. She had been here. He tucked the necklace into his pocket just as shouting erupted from the hallway behind him. Footsteps, fast, loud, angry. He backed toward the side door, but it was already closing. "Noah Briggs!" A voice snarled behind him. He turned and saw 2 men rushing toward him. One had a crowbar, the other a pistol. "Run!" Noah bolted down the hallway, dodging crates and barrels, the air filling with threats and curses. He found a metal ladder leading up to a catwalk, climbed fast, boots scraping metal, gunshots cracked behind him. One sparked, off the railing near his shoulder, up, across, through a broken window. He landed hard on gravel outside, knees buckling, adrenaline burning through him. They were still coming. He ran through the alley, leaping over trash bins, ducking into shadows. Sirens in the distance, not for him, but he wished they were. He reached a chain-link fence, climbed. One of the men behind him slipped. The other fired again. The bullet missed by inches. Noah hit the ground, rolled, and vanished behind a row of dumpsters just as the streetlights flickered back on. Silence. Only the sound of his breathing. He crouched there for a long moment, heart racing, hand clutching the necklace like a lifeline. She'd been there, they had her, and this wasn't just some random abduction. It was organized, controlled, a network. He didn't have all the answers, but he had proof now. He pulled out his phone and snapped a photo of the necklace next to the building's rusted exterior. Then he sent it to himself, twice, just in case. Noah didn't go home that night. He couldn't sleep, couldn't stop shaking. But inside the fear, something new formed. A clarity, a heat that settled in his chest. Claire Montgomery wasn't just missing. She was trapped in a world no one in her circle would ever dare enter. But Noah had already walked through it. And now, he wasn't just trying to survive anymore. He was going to find her. Even if it killed him, Claire's world was silent now. Not the peaceful kind, but the suffocating silence of isolation, like the air itself was afraid to make noise. The room was cold, windowless, and smelled faintly of damp wood and bleach. She was in what looked like a repurposed wine cellar, deep, beneath some house far from the city. The concrete walls were too thick for sound. No traffic, no birds, just the occasional creak above her head. At first she'd screamed, kicked, fought, but no one answered. And eventually she saved her breath for more important things, like staying alive. Her wrists were raw from the zip ties, now replaced by cuffs. They weren't cruel, just practical. like everything here. Her captors didn't gloat. They didn't talk much, just barked commands in flat voices and wore black ski masks that made them faceless, inhuman. They brought her food on a schedule. She noted every pattern, counted every step as they moved through the hall, traced which floorboards groaned. She wasn't just sitting here, she was listening, thinking. Claire had always been the observant type, though most people didn't notice. She'd learned early that pretty girls weren't expected to be sharp. But behind the dresses and rehearsed smiles was someone who paid attention. She could tell time by the shadows under the door. She knew the one guard had a limp right leg. Another smelled like citrus gum. They rotated in pairs every 6 hours. 2 men, 1 woman, no names, no slip-ups. But eventually they would make one. And she'd be ready. She worked out escape scenarios. In her mind, like puzzles. Could she use the broken tile in the corner to scratch through the vent screws? What if she clogged the toilet to force them into the room longer? Could she start a fire small enough to cause panic, but not smoke herself? Out her body hurt, her head throbbed sometimes, but her mind was clear. And strangely, when the silence got too heavy, when fear curled around her like a fog, her thoughts drifted to him. Noah, the boy with the calm eyes and grease-streaked hands, the one who'd helped her fix her bike and refused her money like it was poison. He barely spoke, but when he did, he looked right at her, not through her. It had been such a brief moment, but it stayed. Maybe because it was the only real moment she'd had in a long time. She didn't know why she thought of him now. Maybe because she couldn't afford to imagine rescue from people who wore tailored suits and signed checks. But someone like Noah, someone who understood quiet, who noticed things, that felt real. Claire curled tighter on the floor, the moonlight from a vent high above barely touching her face. If there was anyone out there still thinking about her, she hoped it was him. Noah hadn't slept in 2 days, not properly. His eyes were red, his fingers scraped, and his legs burned from the run-in at the warehouse. But the half-moon necklace in his pocket made everything else irrelevant. Claire had been there, and if she had, there was a trail. He just had to find it. That's where Lexi came in. Lexi was 18 like him, but 10 years ahead of her time. She could crack into most city systems with a busted laptop and 5 minutes of silence. She worked at a vape shop by day and moonlighted as a digital ghost for people who couldn't afford real hackers. Noah showed up at her apartment unannounced, still smelling like sweat and engine oil. She took one look at his face and let him in without a word. They sat cross-legged on the floor, her laptop glowing like a portal between worlds. Noah told her everything, the warehouse, the guards, the necklace, and Claire. Lexi listened, typing the whole time, chewing a plastic straw like it owed her money. "Okay," she muttered. "Let's trace vans in that area from the week before the kidnapping. Traffic cams, business parking lots, maybe stolen GPS pings." "That's a lot," she smirked. "Good thing I'm not normal." Lines of code danced across the screen. They combed through hours of footage, cross-referenced plate numbers, filtered out delivery companies, maintenance crews, junk. Then they found it, a van with no license plate parked outside a property up in Ridgewood Forest. Private driveway, no official residence listed, but deliveries were logged, quiet, regular, all in cash. The van had visited twice the week Claire disappeared. "This place isn't on any real estate registry," Lexi said. "It's owned through a shell company in Luxembourg. You know what that smells like? Money laundering, or worse." Noah stared at the screen. Ridgewood Forest was secluded, dense, miles away from where the police were looking, and way too quiet for something this loud. Then came the bigger surprise. Lexi dug deeper into the corporate web behind the shell company. William Montgomery's name didn't show up, but someone else did. Brian Trevors, a former executive at Montgomery Tech, fired 6 months ago. No charges, no lawsuits, just a quiet vanishing from the company roster after a major product leak cost them millions. "He got buried fast," Lexi said. "But this guy, he didn't vanish, he got angry. And he had motive. Claire wasn't taken for money, she was taken for revenge. Noah stood. "I need to talk to her father." Lexi looked up at him like he was crazy. "He's not going to let you within 10 feet. He will, once he sees this." That afternoon, Noah showed up at Montgomery Global HQ with grease on his hoodie and fire in his gut. Security tried to block him. He pushed past. The reception area was all marble and glass, polished to reflect power. William Montgomery stepped out of a meeting to the sound of raised voices and saw a skinny boy holding out a silver necklace like it was a live wire. William stared, not moving. His face cracked for a second, something between recognition and fear. "She was at the warehouse," Noah said. "I found this there. You expect me to believe? You don't have to. Just follow the trail. Ridgewood Forest, Brian Trevor's." The van shows up on camera 2 days before she went missing. Silence. Then William's hand trembled as he took the necklace. For the first time in his life, Noah watched a billionaire look helpless. Lexi's fingers flew across her keyboard, decoding the digital mess like a surgeon with a scalpel. Noah hovered. Behind her, heart thudding like a drumline, every minute felt like a countdown. "You're not going to believe this," she muttered, spinning the screen toward him. Found a delivery log buried in Trevor's shell company records. Same company that owns the Ridgewood property. They've been routing supplies, generators, food, medical kits to a different address. Where? An old hunting lodge, deep in the San Gabriel Mountains. Totally off-grid, no cameras, no Wi-Fi. But guess who filed a maintenance request 6 weeks ago? Noah leaned closer. "Tyrex Security," Lexi said. "They're supposed to be a high-end firm, but I traced their staff payroll. They've been hiring out to private parties, unlicensed muscle. These guys aren't guards, they're mercs." Noah felt it in his chest, the kind of certainty that makes your breath tighten. "That's where she is," Lexi nodded slowly. "It's gotta be. But listen, if we go up there, we're on our own. No backup, no cell service." "I'm not waiting." They packed light. Flashlights, batteries, a knife, Lexi's beat-up laptop, and an old revolver that had belonged to Noah's grandfather. 6 bullets. He didn't ask if it still worked. He just took it. By sunset, they were on a dirt road curling deep into the forest. The air got colder, darker. Trees loomed like sentinels. Neither of them saw the unmarked SUV following from 5 car lengths behind. The FBI hadn't ignored Noah's visit. They just didn't trust him. They'd planted a GPS tracker on his backpack, discreet, silent. If he was right, they'd move in. If not, they wouldn't risk exposure. Either way, they were using him. Noah didn't care. As long as someone showed up before it was too late. The hunting lodge appeared out of the trees like a ghost. 2 stories, logs blackened with time, 1 window boarded shut. No lights, no cars. Lexi cut the engine. They sat in silence for a moment. "You ready?" she asked. "No," Noah said, gripping the flashlight, "but I'm going anyway." They stepped out into the dark, leaves crunching beneath their feet. Every shadow felt alive. Every sound, a warning. Claire was in there, and he was coming. Claire's wrists burned, raw from where she'd used the broken bedframe edge to saw through the restraints. Her legs barely held her weight, but adrenaline pushed her forward. The creaky door had been unlocked. Someone had slipped up. She took it as a sign. Now she was crawling through the shadows of the lodge's lower floor, every breath trembling, every heartbeat too loud. A floorboard creaked upstairs. She froze, ducking. Behind a rusted wood stove, her vision swam. Her ankle was swollen from a failed jump earlier. Her ribs ached from someone's boot, but she was free, at least for now. The door exploded inward. Noah burst through, flashlight blazing. "Claire!" he called low, not yelling. Sweeping the beam through the room, she almost ran. The voice didn't match any of her captors, but fear had a way of erasing reason. Then she saw his face. "Noah," she whispered, barely believing he was real. He turned at the sound and ran toward her, just as the back hallway lit up with movement. Gunfire cracked, wood splintered. Noah threw himself over her, both of them crashing to the ground. Claire clutched his jacket as he pressed her into the floor behind the stove. Another shot rang out, closer. Lexi, crouched outside with her phone, sent a final text. "We found her. Move." Seconds later, the lodge erupted in chaos. FBI agents stormed in from the tree line, voices barking commands, lights flashing across the old wooden walls. One of the masked captors ran, but didn't make it far, tackled and pinned against the muddy porch steps. Inside, the final gunman dropped his weapon and raised his hands. Claire was shaking. Noah held her tighter, and then came the twist. As agents pulled off one of the attacker's masks, William Montgomery's head of security, David Kessler, stared back at them, eyes cold and empty. Claire's breath caught. This wasn't a random attack. It was betrayal, seeded in her father's inner circle, and she had almost died for it. The cameras flashed like lightning. Claire stood beside her parents at the press conference, dressed in a simple blazer and jeans. No makeup, no jewelry. Her eyes, once full of warmth, now held a quiet distance. Reporters called her name, but she didn't flinch. She barely glanced at her father. William Montgomery stood tall beside her, gripping the microphone like a lifeline. "We are grateful," he said, voice rehearsed. Grateful to law enforcement, grateful to the public, and most of all, grateful to the young man who brought our daughter home. Noah Briggs stepped forward, hands in his pockets, head lowered. The crowd murmured. A poor boy in a borrowed blazer, a mechanic, a nobody, but now a hero. William extended a check. 6 figures, minimum. Noah looked at it once, then shook his head. "I don't want money," he said simply. "I want college, full ride, somewhere that gets me off the streets and into a future." William blinked, surprised. "Done," he said. Later, as the crowd thinned and the agents packed up their files, Claire found Noah leaning against the edge of the stage, staring out at the street like he didn't belong in the moment. She approached quietly. "Hey," she said. He turned. Their eyes met. No flash, no music, just a moment suspended in something unspoken. "You saved my life," she said. "You saved your own," he replied. "I just helped finish the job." They stood there, the silence between them deeper than words. Then she smiled just a little and touched the necklace now back around her neck. "Take care of yourself, Briggs." "You too, Montgomery." She walked away, each step steady, sure, and he watched her go, knowing she'd never be the same. Neither of them would. The campus was quiet under the late spring sun. Noah pedaled slowly along the path outside the student center, backpack slung over one shoulder, earbuds in. He looked different now, cleaner cut, confident, a notebook full of theories about profiling and criminal patterns tucked under his arm. He was 2 semesters into a degree in criminal psychology, and for the first time in his life, he felt like he belonged somewhere. His bike rattled, then jerked hard. Chain snapped. He sighed, pulled over, and crouched by the sidewalk, flipping it upside down. A familiar voice called out, "Still haven't learned to oil that chain, huh?" He looked up, and there she was, Claire Montgomery, dressed in jeans and a hoodie with the logo of her nonprofit, Bright Tracks. She'd become a voice for the voiceless, building outreach programs for missing and exploited youth in neighborhoods. "The media forgot. Need a hand?" she asked, already kneeling beside him. "I thought you only fix luxury rides," he teased. She smirked. "I make exceptions for heroes." Together, they fixed the chain. Her fingers worked fast. His did too. There was no spotlight this time, no trauma, no fear. Just the soft creak of pedals, the glint of sunlight off chrome, and the sound of their laughter echoing down the campus walkway. She stood first, wiping her hands on her jeans. "I've got a speech to give in 20, she said. "Don't be late," he nodded. "Wouldn't miss it." As she walked toward the glass entrance of the auditorium, he swung one leg over the bike and smiled to himself. The camera pulled back slowly, past the courtyard, past the trees, to the wide view of two lives once shattered by violence, now rebuilt in quiet strength, and for the first time in a long while, everything felt light again. Thank you for watching. If this story had you on the edge of your seat, just imagine what's coming next. Tap subscribe now so you never miss a twist, a rescue, or a moment that changes everything. One click and you're in.